One last thing, a recently released survey from the Pew Research Center received extensive coverage from prominent media outlets, which were nearly uniform in casting the information in an ominous light. The New York Times, they said polarization is dividing American society, not just politics. The Washington Post, in polarized United States, we live as we vote. And Politico, polarization is highest in recent history. At the Wall Street Journal, Pew's president, Alan Murray, wrote his own analysis. That ran under the headline, The Divided States of America. And then Bruce Stokes, the director of global economic attitudes at Pew, offered his own take at CNN.com. This came under the headline, Is America Dangerously Divided? And he began with this paragraph. If you thought that political polarization in America was bad, think again, because it's worse than you thought. And if you're under the impression that dysfunctionality in Washington is merely a product of partisan political gamesmanship on Capitol Hill, try again. Because a new survey finds that divisions inside the Beltway actually reflect a deep ideological divide within the U.S. public that manifests itself not only in politics, but in everyday life. Like the headlines, that summary presages a pretty harrowing picture of the state of our national discourse based upon what's billed as the largest study of U.S. political attitudes ever undertaken by Pew. But I don't buy it. Where others see confirmation that the divide among Americans is akin to that which separates those we elect, I'm digesting data that offers hope in our need to get beyond gridlock. The undeniable bad news is that the number of partisans is on the rise. Those among us with consistently conservative and consistently liberal views have doubled in the last 2 decades from 10 to 21%. Meaning that 1 in 5 Americans are now part of this consistent class of the electorate. Better news is that 4/5 of the country are not in that grouping of ideological uniformity and partisan animosity, a takeaway that you'd never have known unless you actually perused the actual survey. While ideological silos are now common on the left and the right, Pew's own survey noted these sentiments are not shared by all or even most Americans. The majority do not have uniformly conservative or liberal views. Most do not see either party as a threat to the nation. And more believe their representatives in government should meet halfway to resolve contentious disputes rather than hold out for more of what they want. In other words, most Americans are centrists, disbelieving of the partisan hype that they're fed by each of the parties about the other, and they'd like to see compromise. Now, of course, the Pew data begs the question of why the composition of the Congress, much less the modern discourse, doesn't reflect the majority voices. And the answer is lack of engagement. Or, as the Pew survey explained, many of those in the center remain on the edges of the political playing field, relatively distant and disengaged, while the most ideologically oriented and politically rancorous Americans make their voices heard through greater participation in every stage of the political process. Here's my bottom line. Change will come only when the passion of nonpartisans drives their participation. And until then, it's apt to say that political power rests in the center, where rests is the operative word. That's it for me. I'll see you back here next Saturday, and until then, have a great week.